Hello and welcome to the Lyman Lipke Guitarcast. I am your humble host. What's my name again? Lyman Lipke. That's how you say it. When I start lessons, I usually make sure to say, I'm Lyman, because folks have a hard time pronouncing my name sometimes. Also, I have a hard time pronouncing other people's names, so that sort of sets the tone. Like, oh, my name is Joes, Joesse, Jose, Joes. That's how you pronounce that, right? Anyway, if you're interested in becoming one of my students, feel free to reach out on Instagram, via my website, or you can just book one. Like, there's a page on my website where you can check out the times I have available and then book something, and it just sends you a Zoom link instantly. You don't even have to talk to me if you don't want to. I recommend everybody reaches out first, but if you don't want to, if you have an idea of like what questions you want to ask and spend a half hour or an hour with me, you can just book the time and it will send you a Zoom link. It'll send me the Zoom link. And then when time rolls around, we hop on and we do a lesson. Subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. Follow on Spotify. That's how you can get notified of these podcasts going out. And on Monday, we've got a super cool episode with Sam Crones. I believe is how you pronounce her name. She recently sort of blew up on Instagram with a viral little Midwest emo riff that she wrote. And the song just released. We did the podcast in the past, so we're talking about the song as if it's going to be released, but it's released now. It's called Sprout. Anyway, I have Butters with me today. I recently changed the bridge to a 6-saddle system, so I could finally get everything in tune properly. And I also carved out a new bone nut, so this guitar is getting closer and closer to complete by the day. I would like to create a specific neck sort of shim, because right now I'm just using pieces of popsicle stick, and I'd like new tuners. But after that, I think Butters is complete. I've also got a set of my Telecaster pickups in here. That's the neck at full volume, half volume, tone wide open, tone all the way closed off, tone halfway, and I'll demo a few. Middle position, wide open. Volume down. Tone halfway. Tone all the way down. And then that telly bridge position. It's got that bite. also am in the middle of creating or finishing up 10 similar sets to these, which I will be demoing, and then they will be for sale relatively soon. So if you like the sound of these pickups, you can get yourself a set. Shipping to the continental US only as of right now, unless you know how to ship things like internationally and you can help me through the process. It probably will cost an arm and a leg though. But sets, the continental US, 50 USD for both, plus shipping, which I don't imagine will be too much. So, I have been prepping for something interesting, a pop punk emo cover band gig, which is tomorrow. And that's been a lot of fun, playing bass on the gig. And it's all this stuff from like the early mid 2000s that I refused to allow myself to like while it was happening, because I was too cool for that. I was too cool for that stuff. That was lame music. And that is just a lame attitude to have. So I always felt like I kind of missed out on that when it happened. And it's like a second chance. It's also my first time getting to play the song Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind properly. I once did a cover of that with a bluegrass band. And there's a kind of an interesting story about that song in my personal history. It has nothing to do with crystal meth. But that's a story for another day. Maybe next Thursday I will share that story. My connection with that song. Anyway, I've got a bunch of your questions today. First one from 778 Eli Betts. Do you feel any air escaping from your 3M respirator? I meant air seeping from where it shouldn't. That's a question. And let me tell you let me tell you why he asked that. I put out the feelers every week. Usually in my broadcast channel practice, but this week I put the feelers out for questions from you guys. This is where I source my questions on my story. And I decided I needed to do that while I was making this nut. And something I've heard is bone dust is real bad to breathe. Like, you shouldn't be breathing that. So I went and got myself a respirator. So I had the respirator on, and anytime you got a mask like that, you have to pretend to be Bane. You merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it. So I had the respirator on and was doing Bane. But I am foolish when it comes to these things. I'm ignorant, so I don't know if I felt any air seeping from where it shouldn't be. I don't think so. Also, 10 out of 10 can recommend using a respirator to change your cat box if you've gone a little bit too long. You probably shouldn't have waited. Makes that process a whole lot easier. So, respirator, 10 out of 10, can recommend. Julian asks, do I have any tips for someone who is trying to piece together bebop on the guitar? This is a very good question, a very deep question. Like, there's a lot of places we could go with this. First thing I would say is get comfortable with the arpeggio, any seventh chord arpeggio with an approach note played as a triplet. an anticipation to a triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get comfortable with that move. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also do it from a diatonic tone above. Trying to alternate back and forth. But you don't have to do it with all the chords. If you are very, very new in bebop, just learn a few good shapes for the major 7th arpeggio. I have a system for arpeggios: 2 on low, 2 on middle, 2 on high, across 4. 2 on low, 2 on middle, 2 on high, across 4. And then we have to contend with the B string. So that's all the ways we can play a root position major 7 chord on the guitar. So those are all the most viable fingerings. There's a couple you can do, like 2 and 2. And then here, that one's tough because first finger is on the 5th fret. It needs to jump all the way to the 8th fret. Your 4th finger is on the 9th fret. So there's a little bit of a traffic jam there for a second. And get that phrasing down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is very, very bebop. But you gotta follow it up with the correct things. So that's a Barry Harris chromatic scale. And that sounds real bebop to me, both those put together. You even go up to the root and then just back down the scale. One of my favorites is going chromatically down to the 6th. Also, learning your arpeggios. I'd call that like a major 9 chord, but how I'm thinking of it is a major or minor 9 chord. Which comes from those same major 7 shapes, but just adding an additional half step and whole step on the end. So that's kind of bebop-y, right? And once you got this major 7 idea, what possible chords can I use this C major 7 arpeggio over? Obviously, C works, but there are some others. A minor. That gives us that A minor 9 sound. Also, this is something I'd feel comfortable playing over D7. So if I can play a major 7 chord over a minor chord, the relative minor chord, C, relative minor is A minor. If I think of that minor chord as a 2 chord, I can play that over its corresponding 5 chord. It'll give me like a suspended sound. And so once you got that, like learn the minor 7 arpeggios, dominant arpeggios, and minor 7 flat 5 arpeggios, and look at what chords those all can work over. Like when I'm playing over C major, I'm playing E minor 7 arpeggio. That is a very solid way to get stuff that sounds bebop-y a little bit, like, and real simple too. Just 1 major 7 arpeggio. I was just the arpeggio and some scale fragments. There are a few other ideas like this, but I tend to think of those ideas as like within my positioning system. Those are enclosures. There's a rule for each set of 3 adjacent notes, and then you should be able to do that positionally. Document coming soon on my tab store for that, the enclosures specifically. Check this out. So 2 major seconds, 2 whole steps. There's 5 ways we can play 2 whole steps within the 3 note per string framework. 2 on high crossing the B string, 2 on low crossing the B string, on 1 string, 2 on high, 2 on low, and then they start repeating. Cross 1 string, that is the same as this. So I call that a formational interval set. This is formation 1 in my fingering system. And formation 1 anytime there's 2 whole steps. Usually that goes with 1 string. So formation 1 plus formation 2, formation 2, formation 3 plus formation 3, formation 1. But so this is a formation 1 interval set, but it also just is for the formation 1 fingering. Formation 1 interval set 2 on high. 2 of the diatonic tones are on the high string. Formation 1 interval set 2 on low. On 1 string, 2 on high crossing B, 2 on low crossing B, on 1 string. So, there are 5 ways to play a formational 1 interval set. There's an enclosure rule that goes along with it. So, just play the enclosure on a formation 1 interval set, 2 on high crossing the B string, 2 on low crossing the B string, on 1, 2 on high in the strings tuned in fourths, 2 on low in the strings tuned in fourths. And that's all the shapes for formation 1. So 5 enclosure shapes for formation 1. And then there are only 2 other formations. So you get the 15 total shapes. And then you start putting them together. Crossing the B string, I put that first on the document because that's where we spend the least time, so we're the most likely to screw that up. And then strings tuned in fourths. call these formational pairs. Two formations across two strings. There are 6 formational pairs. 1 plus 2, 1 1, 3 1, 3 3, 2 3, 2 2, and then we keep going. We wind up back at 1 plus 2. And then it's the same for the B string. We just add an additional plus. So 1 plus plus 2. 1 plus 2. 1 plus 1. 3 plus 1. 3 plus 3. 2 plus 3. 2 plus 2. 1 plus plus 2. So, if you can get all of the formations across those formational pairs, then you will have done every move, every possible move crossing a string. And then so putting it together throughout the entire position should be a little bit easier. So that is sort of the logical progression in my mind. Learn all the fingerings for one formational interval set. And then learn all the formational interval sets. Then put it together across a formation pair. Then do all the formation pairs. And then just do it throughout the positions. Then do it throughout all the positions, all the keys. And that is like how you master enclosures within the 3-note per string framework. Caged is a little bit different because we do have some 2 notes on a string sometimes, but it's neither here nor there. So that's another bebop idea. Like that's the one that really unlocked the door for me. A lot of that was just enclosures, arpeggios, scale fragments, and Barry Harris chromatic. Getting comfortable moving throughout all of that, and then learning how to do it over changes. That's how you can convince somebody like you got a little bit of bebop. Excuse me. All right, next question. Who are your favorite guitarists or musicians? Top 3 guitar players of my Mount Rushmore. And I don't want to hear about any whataboutism. Like, inevitably, I'm going to, miss some. And there are tons that are great. But these are my favorites. These are the ones that when they play, they spoke to me. Joe Pass, Pat Martino, Jimmy Bruno. Jimmy Bruno is the man. I am a big fan of how he plays. And he's still with us, fortunately. So if you haven't heard of Jimmy Bruno, check him out. Just joined Instagram, so give him a follow there. Those are my 3 favorite guitarists, jazz guitarists. The 4th on my just general guitar Mount Rushmore would be John Frusciante. Don't at me about that. Big Chili Peppers fan. I know he tuned his guitar a little bit different. He tuned his B string 14 cents flat. I cannot bend a string flat, so I'm bending the A string sharp to get that just in tune major 3rd, or 10th. Just in tune, major triad. Oh, that sounds so nice to me. Very, very relaxing. And I've gotten in arguments about this is not in tune with the harmonic series. You can hear a slight dissonance. So if you can bend these two 14 cents sharp, both simultaneously, which is hard to do, keep that in tune. That gets you the just intonation major triad. And here's a little experiment you can try for yourself. If your E strings are perfectly in tune, we have, you know, we have harmonics. The 12th fret, 7th fret, and 5th fret. There's also one at the 4th fret. That's a major chord. If we play, that's a just in tune major chord. And anytime we strike this open E string, we're hearing a little bit of this, less of this, but we're still hearing it. And for each harmonic, we start to hear less and less. All of those exist within that string plug. And the higher harmonics decay faster than the fundamental. Fundamental frequency is essentially, it's like this, because our tone knob is just a low pass filter. But it's not filtering out everything, because then it would just be a sine wave. It's like a sine wave at 82 point whatever hertz. But if we play this harmonic, that's what naturally exists there, and then we play the pitch that matches, 4th fret on the high E string, those notes aren't in tune. This one's a little bit sharp. There's nothing you can do about that with straight fretted guitars. And it's a compromise that was made when keyboard instruments were created. 12-tone equal temperament. The equal division of the half step. Which is what makes things like cool modulating harmony possible. Because if, you know, we tune for the key of C major and then move everything to D flat major, it's gonna sound wonky and out of tune and real bad. So it's just a compromise. And the crux of the argument that I received was this sounds boring and flat. It doesn't sound boring and flat to me. It sounds correct. With the natural resonant frequencies of the string, not of the earth or any of this mystic nonsense. It's not mystical. It's physics. I don't know anything about physics, but it is what it is. That exists naturally in the harmonic series. So that's what we should be hearing. Like, that sounds so sweet to me. And the crux of the argument is I stated that I believed we were conditioned to 12-tone equal temperament, which is fine. Like, I mean, we don't hear too much just in tune music in 2024. Imagine some choral music, some orchestral music, uh, instruments that aren't confined to locked pitches, like fretted instruments or keyboarding instruments. Um, and again, with the false equivalency thing, like, we're not conditioned. Did you know Redbone was in 432? You can't tell the difference. Like, if that was real, like, we'd be able to tell the difference. We aren't conditioned to 440. It has nothing to do with 440, 432. Any of that. Like, it has to do with what exists when I hit this string. We're not used to hearing that perfect sound. We're used to hearing, which is just so ever slightly out of tune. And I don't know if that means my ear is good or something, but I believe this is more in tune than this, and I have evidence because this exists in the harmonic series. So this, we're hearing a little bit of that. And my E string went flat. Yeah, I could talk about that for forever. It bothers me because it doesn't sound boring and flat to me. Everybody prefers, like, 9 out of 10 people preferred this to this when I polled them on Instagram. And I think that's just conditioning. Like, everything we've heard, 99% of the music that we listen to is in 12-tone equal temperament. So this is just completely foreign to a lot of listeners. And as humans, we tend to think that things that are foreign are scary and bad. When they're not. I mean, this isn't the foreigner. He was here first. This is the invader. And just so history for we've forgotten the history because that happened many moons ago, before any of our great grandparents were born. So we don't know any better. So that's my theory, my hypothesis. I have done very little scientific research. By very little, I mean none. But that's just talking about, like, my favorite musicians. I like that John Frusciante, justly in tune, played Scar Tissue essentially with just intonation. And I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that is my guitar Mount Rushmore. Any tips on practicing with a metronome to build speed, but less of a chore? The metronome to build speed thing, I think it is an incorrect course of action to take. I think, like a metronome gives us something very concrete, a click. And once we get comfortable playing at that rate, we just turn it up and see if we can do the next rate. We're not looking at what's happening with our hands and with our bodies. So I'm a big fan of the metronome. I think you should always practice with the metronome. But rather than like incrementally trying to increase the speed, take a look at your technique and try to make things smoother. Any extra motion is going to throw wrenches into the gears when you try to speed it up. So I've got students with flying fingers. This is very exaggerated. But, so these fingers are up. And then this finger comes down. This finger goes up. The problem is, if this finger goes up that far, when I need to use it again, it needs to come all the way back down. And vice versa. Which is definitely going to, like, if you speed that any... like, that's nigh impossible. So, getting your fingers as close to the fingerboard as possible. Very, very important. Eliminating that extra motion. And in both hands. Like, that's a big reason why I economy pick. Just the entire right hand mechanism is just moving less. Trying to keep everything close by. And one more thing that is very, very important. Stay relaxed. Tension is the speed killer. The moment you tense up, like, your muscles aren't going to be working as efficiently. Muscles, tendons, all that stuff. So keep everything as relaxed as possible. Straight wrist keeps everything moving efficiently. Another experiment you can try at home. Put out your arm, your fretting arm. Grab it with your other arm around the forearm, and wiggle your fingers. Feel how everything's moving. Then bend your wrist, wiggle your fingers. Notice how everything's working much harder now. You're gonna fatigue easier if you do that. Oh, but just build. You're weak, you gotta have strong fingers. Where are your finger muscles? Muscles that control the finger are right here. So, you're building extra finger muscle, maybe. But what do you need it for when it works more efficiently with the straight wrist? Keep a straight wrist. And relax and don't move so much. That is my tips on playing fast. And do it with the metronome slowly and evenly. Like, this should be a cakewalk. It's five notes across 60 BPM, so that's... I was looking at my clock up there. Like, my clock is my secondary metronome. And let's do a little bit of an experiment about that. Let's pull up the metronome. A clock is essentially a metronome that's locked at 60 BPM because there are 60 seconds in a minute. You can hear a click once every second, 60 BPM. So that's 60 BPM. Double that. That's 120. Another tip for 120 if you were ever a band kid, that's a Sousa march. You march at 120. 2, 3, 4. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba. So, 60 to 120. Also, triplets at 60 BPM. That's 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a hard exercise. Thinking of that, essentially, it's a metronome clicking on 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1 in every bar. And to take that further, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's 90. So that's 90 BPM. So I've got 30, 90, 120, 180. Just from looking at a clock. So if a tempo marker says 88, just think a little bit slower than 90. If it says 75, it's exactly halfway between 60 and 90. So 60 versus 90. Da 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 da, which should net me. I don't know. Now we're in the frickin' weeds. That's 75. So if you have a watch or a clock, you have a metronome at all times. You can easily play at 60, 120, 240, and relatively easily play at 180, and it gets real hard when you go to 90. There's probably other mathematical subdivisions that you can do, but I'm not a math magician. I don't know how math, so I just do the simple ones. So 5 beats across 1 second equals what's 5 times 60? That's 300. So 300 strikes in a minute. That is, we could think of that as eighth notes at 150 beats a minute. So there's how you get your 75, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. move to triplets there. But those eighth notes at 150, that should be a cakewalk for you. If you're staying relaxed, you're moving not so much, and everything's working efficiently, that's how you get speed. You memorize how that feels, and then you can, come up with a lick using that sort of idea of keeping everything relaxed, not moving so much. I bet I can do it faster. I'll do it for you. Here, I'm going to play the lick. Want to hear me play it again? So, that's how you, that's when you can incorporate the metronome. Once you've got something that you like and you want to play it faster, and you've addressed all those other things, then bring in the metronome and slowly increase the tempo. And your and while keeping account of all those other things, relaxation, not moving so much, efficient muscle movement, all that, then the metronome makes sense. But until then, there's other things to work on. Oh, this is a question. How to do career in music. 1, seek professional counseling and confirm that you have a screw loose or two. Because that is a likely, scenario on why you'd want to do something like this. A career in music is not easy. It's not easy at all. I see, and I'm not one to crush youngins' dreams, but I see young people all I need is to write that one hit song and then I'm set for the rest of my life. The likelihood of that happening is very, very, very low. I don't know how many people have written one song that has made them generationally wealthy. I would think that it's less than 80,000, less than 8,000 maybe, that are alive today, which means 8 billion people on the planet. That's 1 in a million or 1 in 10 million or something. I don't like those odds. So either, you got a little bit of a screw loose, or you just cannot see yourself doing anything else. And in that case, you have to be single-mindedly focused. You have to work very, very hard to hone your craft. And you got to have a good idea of what you want to do. If you want to be a famous songwriter, pop star, that is a very, very low floor, but a very, very high ceiling. And very few ever touch, get anywhere near the ceiling. But you can go broke trying to, make and produce and promote your own music. You can go broke real quick doing that. But there are other avenues, like playing in cover bands, wedding bands, corporate events. And to make a decent living on that, you gotta hustle. One of my good friends, I'm hoping to have her on the podcast, lady by the name of Tyler King. She's working every weekend doing doubles, double headers. Sometimes I think she's even doing triple headers, like 3 gigs in a day. And hustling any weekday gig that she can get. She works so hard. And I think she has other businesses on the side as well that aren't music related. So that gives you any indication on what it takes to make a decent living without while only performing. There are also other avenues as well, like session work, recording on other people's music. Teaching is what I do, and I just so happen to actually really like teaching. I've heard horror stories of, great, especially in the jazz world, great musicians. You can't make any money playing jazz. It's so hard. There's 200 guys that are making a good living playing jazz, and I got that figure directly from my buttocks. So, from only performing, I bet that number's pretty low. So you got to teach, and you spent your whole life honing your craft, and now you got to teach other people to do it, and you don't really want to do it. Like, it's a recipe for disaster, bitterness, resentment, anger, like thinking about what could have been. I actually like teaching. Like, if I could not perform ever again and just have a consistent teaching studio, I would absolutely take that in a heartbeat. I'd put a wig on and perform other places to get around that completely hypothetical made-up contract that I just made for myself. But I prefer teaching. Like the light bulb, watching the light bulb go off in somebody's eyes when they when they finally understand a concept that has been troubling them. That is the feeling that I live for. And I'm trying to attack that concept from as many angles as possible to find that way that makes it stick for you and all of my students. Which is why it's funny when I get comments like, "You're teaching this wrong, you should teach it like this." Like, yeah, that's another way that I've probably taught before. Sometimes certain ways of teaching things don't make good content, or I already did that piece of content. There's a million ways to teach a single concept, and you keep throwing enough at somebody, they're bound to stick. And as I've been teaching more and more the last 5 years, I've been able to suss out what is going to be a likely plan of action to get a student to understand within a few lessons. Sometimes I have to pivot. Okay, we're attacking this way, but now we got to attack it this way. That is a real viable career path, teaching. But don't teach if you don't love it. Because you can do a lot of damage to a young mind, or even an old mind, just somebody interested in music, by being a bitter teacher or an angry teacher. I understand the highest echelon of player / educator like guys like Jimmy Bruno, one of my favorite guitar players, also one of my favorite educators. He just puts things so simply and with a bit of vulgarity too, which really helps make it stick in my brain. If he and I don't know anything about anybody who's studied with him, but if I were to study with him and he gave me an assignment and I did not complete the assignment in the allotted time, I feel like a guy like him would be justified in being very, very upset with me because I am taking away one of the slots. All of our time is finite, but the time of the cream of the crop is super, super finite. You want to take a lesson with me? There's any of 1,000 guitar teachers at my level and price range that you could study with. There are very few of the cream of the crop. So if you studying with them and waste their time, that is much more valuable time that's been wasted. Like if you came to me and I didn't do the assignment, and that's where I sit as far as like how I approach my students. I want all of my students to do the assignments and get better at their instrument as quickly as possible. However, I understand that life gets in the way. And one of my best traits, I feel, is I am very, very patient when it comes to students. Because I know what it feels like to be, meet with a mentor or play with a mentor and just disappointing them or upsetting them with how you played or something like that. And I hated that feeling. And I don't want that feeling I don't want to pass that feeling along to anybody. So if you're studying with me, like, I'm going to be patient with you. If you're consistently not doing an assignment, one thing I love to do with my students is like sit down and like figure out why. Like if this thing sucks so bad, like here's an example. Very few people ever do this exercise completely through all 7 positions. Like that kind of sucks. It's boring. It's repetitive. And so if you're not doing that assignment, like I am happy to shift gears and find something that will get you similar skills, but you're willing to do, and you're happy to do. Because I'm here to help you become better at your instrument, but also foster a love of the instrument. Like, if you don't love this thing, why are you spending time with this thing? So I want to help you love this thing and love the sound that you create out of it. So, if you don't want to do all positions, like I'll say, okay, do 2 strings at a time. And make it a game, like play along with a backing track. So let's loop something. it's almost music. We're playing something that is resembling music a little bit more than ad nauseum. Vary the rhythm, just getting those moves down. And what is this? That's a formational pair. So there are only 6 of those. You can master all 6 and then move on to all 6 but with an additional plus. Let's see if I can do this. I think I missed one. It was all 6 formational pairs, eventually. This is the only thing that'll ever happen across these 2 strings playing in thirds. You master the ones on fourths and the ones crossing the B string. Just put them together. So, I just try to be patient because you chose to spend time and trust me with your guitar education. So I want to make that as smooth a process as possible. But if you're going to a mid-level or even worse, a beginning guitar teacher that makes you feel bad, get out of there. Like, why are you spending money to feel bad? Like, I just think that's like just shooting yourself in the foot as a teacher. Like, this guy's giving me money. Let's be rude to this guy. Like, if you're not top 100 in the world player educator, like there's no room for that. So that's the teaching part about a career in music. And the most important thing, people skills, like being a decent human being to be around. And a lot of that teacher stuff like goes into that, like people skills. Being organized, like having a good calendar. When you say you're going to do something, you do that thing. You don't miss things. You're not late. You don't reflect badly on bands that you play in or establishments that you teach at. And unfortunately, those who have that screw loose, which a lot of us do if we were trying to make a career in music, those things are hard for us. So that's how you do a career in music. You work diligently, decide what you want, diversify, like teach, perform, do session work. There's all sorts of like money-making opportunities in music, but having good people skills is like that will help you not just in music but everything. Be a good person, but don't allow yourself to be a doormat. Like, don't get taken advantage of. That's how you do a career in music. That's hard. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. But if you cannot see yourself doing anything else, then just put your nose to the ground and do everything that you can to make it work. Work diligently. And this is another big question. I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of this. Please show us the cage system to play chords or scales. Missed one letter there. Caged. And that's one of my students, Ryan. I'll break down the caged system real quick. So, caged, what it is our open major chords. C, A, G, E, D. So, C, our C shape. A, but if we moved this to C, it's still an A shape. C shape, A shape. Move this to C, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, B sharp, or C. So, C, A, G, E shape, move that to C, cage, C, A, G, E, and then our D shape. So each one of those are our caged chords. And each one of those shapes has a scale fingering that goes along with it. So I'm going to play this C up here just so I can finger everything. So within this chord shape, got this note. This is the fingering that goes along with the C major shape. And usually people who learn caged, I think, start with the pentatonic shapes. Because then you just fill in the fourths and the sevenths. And then C, that was our C shape. A shape. That's a C major scale that exists within that shape. G shape. That's the fingering that exists within this shape. E shape. That's the C major scale that exists within this shape. And then D shape. So 5 fingerings related to those open chords that we learn when we start playing guitar. That's the caged system, as I understand it. That was always very, very confusing to me when I was coming up, especially with those like chart diagrams with all of the dots like in a certain part of the neck. Like, I've got a little bit of music dyslexia. I don't wish to talk about it. So looking at those, like everything just jumbled together. And so I'm not too studied in the caged system. Everything that I learned about caged system came after. Like, I just learned all of the notes on the guitar and I did my 3-note per string thing. So I just looked up the fingerings. And Jimmy Bruno, this is the 3rd time we've invoked his name on this podcast, but I mean, he gets it right. Like, he doesn't call this the cage system. He says that's wrong. It's calls it 5 fingerings. So once I started thinking of it as 5 fingerings, it made a lot more sense to me. And then eventually, on an older episode of the podcast, I figured out, like in real time, what chords went along with those shapes. It was kind of a cool little thing. But that is the caged system as far as I can tell. Fingerings and, from our open chord shapes. And they go in that order. C, A, G, E, D. So it really is kind of brilliant. But didn't work too well with my dyslexic mind. And the fact that there are only 2 notes on some strings like that really confused me. 3 notes per string, same number of things happens on every string. 3 notes. So the right hand was able to become more of a machine. Like I didn't have to think about my right hand as much. Because in every position, same exact thing was happening on all the same strings. That is all the questions I received for this week. Let's refresh to see if I received any new questions. I don't imagine that I did. Nope, no new questions. There were a couple that I wanted to get through that some stragglers put into my practice broadcast channel, but maybe I'll record another podcast today and get to those. I think we touched upon enough today, and I went on some tangents. Wow. But that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you for listening or watching this podcast. Something that I give every now and again to the folks who stick around. If you ever thought about studying with me, at my scheduling page, which you should be able to find in the description, use promo code INTRO, and that's 50% off of a half-hour lesson with me. Your first half-hour lesson. So, it's $25 for a half hour. They're usually $50. So, like, if you stuck around, you're a real one, and if you've ever wanted to sit down and have some time one-on-one with me, and I can show you some of this stuff in greater depth, that's a good way to start. And if you want to continue, I've still got many slots available. Anyway, subscribe here on YouTube. Follow on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. Pickups coming soon. Tab store revamp coming soon. And I think that's all I got for today. Thanks for hanging out. Bye!